Good afternoon, Jags fans. Welcome to our latest In Lockdown with interview with a bona fide Thistle legend. Today, I'm going to make this man feel very old because he's been involved with the club over 4 different decades. 90s,
Wow.
noughties, 2010s, now into the 2020s, but we're going to concentrate on the playing career of Kenny Arthur. Kenny, how are you doing?
I'm great. I do feel quite old when you say that, and then I sort of look back at the kind of really, really early experiences at the club, and that's like 12 years old, 13 years old, day release from school, training with Andy Murdoch, Craig Nelson. So we're going back a long time, if I'm being honest.
A lot.
Yeah.
We need to go back to the start. So you've teed this up beautifully. Let's go back to when you were a young goalkeeper at that age, and school, football, and obviously Thistle became a big part of your development. Talk us through your growth as a goalkeeper before you joined Thistle.
Wow, there's a few things teed up. So when I was a kid, my mum got me, my brother, and my dad season tickets to go and see Hamilton Accies of all teams. That was kind of local town where we're from, and the goalkeeper coming through at the time was Alan Ferguson, who I think a lot of Thistle fans will know from playing against Hamilton, Falkirk, Airdrie, those type of teams. He was my absolute hero. He actually wore that goalie top, or that style of goalie top, and that was the first one my dad ever bought me. It was 3 sizes too big in an Intersport, and it's pretty much the only jersey I've kept since. So he was my hero. Used to go early to games to see warm-ups, which is just absolutely bitten by it, and then spent kind of every waking moment after that trying to get better at it. So I would run up from school, 1, because that would be good fitness training, and 2, I'd get enough daylight to bounce balls off a wall and off a tree, and probably annoy the neighbours and my parents as much as anything else, but just a real kind of desire to get a little bit better at it, but proper bitten by the bug stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're talking to Thomas Cherney last week. He was saying there was never any kind of debate about him not being a goalkeeper. Were you always between the sticks, or did you play a bit outfield?
You've seen me kicking the ball, haven't you?
Many times.
No, there was absolutely no debate at all about being a goalkeeper. No, my brother played striker. 2 brothers in a family, it kind of adds up to one has to go in goals, one can be an outfielder. That keeps everybody happy for a period of time until we have an argument as to whether a shot was in or over, which happened kind of regularly. So no, never any doubt, never even any half inkling of a desire to play outfield. It was just, I want to be a goalkeeper. How do I get a little bit better at this consistently?
Yeah. And yeah, Thistle YMs, they're given some credit for taking you on that journey towards professional football. How much of a role did they have to play?
A real solid grounding. It was Bobby Denny, who's had a lot of good players come through his tutorage. It was just a real solid grounding in terms of no bells and whistles, no frills, just give your best, play football, see what happens. So yeah, you kind of look at maybe modern day football a little bit, and it's kind of sanitized and kind of insulated from the sort of reality of the world, and it certainly wasn't. There was a few hard knocks and a few home truths told regularly, but a real solid grounding to kind of progress forward thereafter.
Yeah. Who was in that kind of group with you? Was when, I suppose, when did you first meet Alan Archibald as well? Because he was involved.
He was older than me. He was a year older than me, so he'd be an age group older than me, and it was really probably when I was doing day release from school stuff. But my first kind of proper memory was starting the YTS. He would be a second year YTS, I would be a first year YTS. He made me do his jobs because he was bigger and stronger than me. And yeah, that's my first real memory of meeting Arch.
Do you remember the day you signed for Thistle?
Do you know, it all sort of blurs a little bit. really just because I went from being, day release at school, so going into that first team environment, I suppose there wasn't big squads in those days. If you were training, you were all training together type of thing. So I'd done that for a couple of years before I actually went in full time YTS and get stuck in about doing boots and cleaning dressing rooms, etc., as well as football. I think my first proper memory of it was done a whole pre-season. I think we were back early because it was the Intertoto Cup season. So we'd done a long pre-season, worked really hard, trying to make an impression. John Lambie was the manager. And I think the boot sponsor at the time was maybe Puma. So all the boots were in the manager's room. Gordon Chisholm, who looked after the kind of younger players, stuck his head in the dressing room and said, look, all the boots are in. Go up and tell the gaffer your size. He'll give you a pair of boots. All the first team players I've had there. So I go up the stairs, dead nervous, chat the door. Who is it? Opened it. I was like, Gaffer, could I please have a pair of boots if that's all right? He's like, who are you, son? I was like, oh no. I'll close the door again and back down the stairs. That was my first kind of memory. You think you've made an impression, you've done all right, you've made a few saves, and you were miles away from being any place near, do you know what I mean? Amazing. Significant. So, but loads of lessons like that, loads of stuff. Just when you thought you were doing all right, you get a slap back down and realised that, nah, you're no place near doing all right. Let's think again about that.
But you obviously made a good enough impression that it was 1997 you would get your first team debut, and that would be under Murdo by that stage.
First team debut, Murdo was gone. So Murdo was there when I was in the YTS. It was John McVeigh. Murdo signed me. Didn't really have. I was kind of insulated away from first team stuff. Like we would play on a Saturday afternoon. The first team would obviously play on a Saturday afternoon. But it was John McVeigh, and you sort of say must have made an impression, maybe to an extent. But I'm a sort of big believer in where preparation meets opportunities, the sort of magic space. So it was just before Save the Jags. We had a goalkeeper on loan from Dundee United. I don't think the club could afford to pay the loan fees, so all the players who were on loan went back, and that left one goalkeeper at the club on a Friday afternoon before playing Stirling away, who was me. And that got me an opportunity, and may not have got it otherwise, who knows. But certainly one that I relished and hold pretty dear to this day.
Yeah. I got my managers mixed up my notes there, but I won't forget this game because I was at it. It was one of the most remarkable games of that season. What age would you have been that day?
I think I'd just turned 18. Thought I was dead old as well. I thought, 18, that's dead old. Like, you see some goalies playing first teams when they're 17 and stuff. It was like just a warped, distorted version of reality, as a lot of people have got when they're just a kid. So no, 18, just before Christmas, I think. That type of time period was certainly cold, was certainly wet, and we were certainly 2-0 down very, very early.
Yeah, 15th November, you're right, 2-0 down early, and soon to be 2 men down as well.
Yeah, I can remember the altercation. It was Callum Milne and Billy McDonald both got sent off. I can't remember who got sent off first. No, it was Billy was sent off first, and then Callum got involved and got sent off as well. I remember thinking Callum had got away with it. I remember kind of going, Cal, just sneak away. I don't think the linesman seen it. He's not put his flag up. It was before the days that were all mic'd up. So Callum sort of scuttles off behind everybody, and the linesman didn't need to see it. The ref was standing about 2 feet away from him. So he was quickly off as well. And then it was backs to the wall for a long period of time.
Aye. And that was a week after the sort of financial troubles of the club had really come to the fore. Pretty good travelling support went through to Fourth Bank that day. Obviously, we're all kind of in the trenches together at that point, but what happened in the second half was remarkable. And from memory, you made more than a few decent saves that day.
It's funny, you go back to the sort of Save the Jags period, and of course, even as a young player, knew it was important and knew it was it was a kind of perilous position that the club had found itself in, but also it was a time period where you're just absolutely buzzing to be involved as a professional football player in somebody's first team. So there was a lot of mixed emotions at that time. Yeah, I remember a big support went to Stirling. I remember a bigger support the next week at home to St Mirren, and that was, obviously home support turned out in numbers to back the club. I think we were 2-0 down again and got another draw out it from memory.
Archie scored that day. There was a rarity.
Did they? Wow. Who else scored? Andy Lyon? Was it Andy Lyons by any chance? Did he score as well? A stat?
No, it was Jimmy Boyle again. 2 equalisers, two weeks in a row. I think certainly the Stirling one was a rebound off a penalty, wasn't it? But
it was.
I can't remember that St Mirren one. But your home debut, 18-year-old, nearly 5,000 people at Firhill, and there wasn't 5,000 people going every week before that. It was obviously because of Save the Jags coming to the fore, so it's quite an occasion to be thrown into.
It was. I probably wasn't that obsessed with it. Again, you're just so delighted to be playing in somebody's first team, want to do well. My kind of biggest memory, so as I said earlier, Alan Ferguson was my hero when I was a kid, but that was very quickly eclipsed after going full-time at Thistle with Nicky Walker. Nicky Walker always wore knee-high white socks. They were not club issue, they were his own. I spent a large proportion of my £35 YTS money buying white socks and couldn't find them the morning of this game. I was like, Mum, still living at home, Mum, where's my white socks? Type of thing. She's like, what do you need them for? I was like, I think I might be playing today. So it's funny the things that stick in your head, just, maybe a bit self-absorbed. You're just desperate to go and play football. And although I realised the importance of the other stuff round about it, it was more euphoria being part of a football team than anything else.
Yeah. Just speaking of Nicky Walker, because we've obviously over the years been blessed, you've mentioned a couple more of them, really, really great goalkeepers. How was it for you learning under the likes of Nicky and people like that?
Yeah, genuinely unbelievable. I think I had, again, memory plays tricks, but I think I had 2 years on the YTS and then he left just after that. So 2 years kind of working pretty closely with him. It was the days before goalkeeper coaches were a permanent fixture at football clubs. So he kind of oversaw training as well for all of us. And just his kind of work ethic, his dedication to his craft, his ability, and more of the personal stuff as well, the way he treated everybody round about him, even though he was better than most people, probably everybody else at the squad. That was something that stuck with me as well. Just, it's not really what you do, it's how you do it is important also. So yeah, a huge impact on me. He was also a very good kicker of the ball, which I was very jealous about, as you could imagine. He could genuinely half volley the ball to any part of the pitch, like on demand. It took me 30 years to get close. I think as I got close, I had to retire. It was like just pure ability.
Yeah, good. Right, won't labour through the rest of that season. Thankfully, we came out of Save the Jags eventually, and the club recovered. We didn't recover on the pitch because we were relegated that year, but you certainly got a good chunk of first team experience behind you. And then I suppose the story of the next few years was just a bit of a few attempts to cycles at rebuilding that team, that eventually it would be that man who claimed he didn't recognise you when you come up for your boots, but he was back in town a couple of years later, and one of the great kind of Lambie eras for the club began. How was the second John Lambie experience for you?
Interesting. Nah, I don't think I realised that at the time. The word genius has been said about. I can't call him John, I have to call him the gaffer. There's been, the word genius is muted for the gaffer so often, and I didn't quite realise it at the time. I was no place near his first team or in his plans at the start of that second division winning season. So Kevin Budd had played the season before. him and Lambie were pretty tight. They had kind of some crossover at the club earlier. Kevin left to go to Clyde, and it kind of left a kind of gap. There was no permanent first team goalkeeper, and I managed to sort of, after a sticky start to that season, play a consistent amount of games. And you sort of speak about that personal touch that Nicky had. Lambie certainly had it as well, in terms of he just got the best out of people, whether that was the arm round the shoulder to people that needed it, or the boot up the backside to people that needed it, or a combination of the two at different times. And I saw both sides of that. I saw that he would tell me I couldn't do something because he knew it lit a fire underneath me to prove him wrong, and conversely to that, he could come and put his arm round about you and build you back up when he saw you were a little bit low. So yeah, probably a huge 3-season period. I remember, fast forward a couple of years, kind of sitting in my house after we'd won the league at St Mirren. Must have been the week after. Must have been after Trophy Day, and I had these 2 medals. I had a second division championship medal and a first division championship medal, and thinking I might have a little sniff at playing in the Premier League next year, depending on who he signs. But where's this came from? I was no place near his team 2 years ago. But yeah, really happy period on the pitch.
Right, let's it certainly was. Let's pick out a couple of games. We'll go back to Forth Bank actually, where you made your debut, and then a completely different set of emotions when Peter Lindau scored that hat trick. And I think that was just for all it being such a roller coaster and mainly a kind of downward one for Thistle fans over the previous 3 years. I think everything just came out that day. Euphoria, delight, relief, probably a little bit of it as well, but one of the most memorable days in the kind of modern story of Partick Thistle.
So you speak about things came out that day. My shoulder nearly came out that day, and it was nothing to do with the game. Genuinely, no. I remember after the game, we were all running across the pitch and doing the kind of continental. Everybody was diving. I didn't realise the pitch was so dry, so properly went for it and genuinely nearly bit my shoulder out. It was really sore for the next game. Couldn't tell MD. Like, you couldn't go to the physio in those days and say, I've hurt my shoulder celebrating like last week. No. Just you kicked out the place. So I had to kind of tape it up and crack on with it. Yeah, but like great scenes, an outpouring of emotion. Just a really great experience looking back on it.
And a dressing room that I presume milked it, did they? Some big characters in there.
Yeah, there was. I remember that game. I remember Forfar away. I remember Trophy Day as well. So they all came pretty close together. A lot of big characters. A lot of people who'd put a tremendous amount of effort and energy into a whole season. So yeah, we had some good times. We enjoyed ourselves, that's for sure.
Aye. Yeah, I mean, I guess we started that 2001-2 season not really sure what kind of chance we had. I don't think the fans were thinking we're going to run away and win this league, but quite quickly we get into a groove. And people always talk about that Christmas period when Big Man Mental scored the 2 late goals up at Inverness. Then the following week we played St Mirren at home, and you have this memorable penalty save that flips that game in its head. Your penalty record wasn't too bad.
Pure fluke, genuinely.
It
was pure fluke. Blessed with long limbs, blessed with a big frame, maybe a little bit of serendipity as well. You always sort of find good things happen to good people, and I don't mean myself in that in any way, shape or form, but I think Stevie Craigan gave away the penalty, and you'll not meet somebody who was more dedicated to his craft than Stevie Craigan. So to sort of save that, and then we go on and win. I remember him being absolutely buzzing after it, going, "Oh, that could have been so different." Yeah. You see those little bits of magic for people who really deserve it.
Yeah, and we'll talk about your best Thistle 11 at the end, but over the course of those 2 seasons, you had some pretty good defenders in front of you. Not just the skills they brought to the team, but the personality and communication, and must have been a delight to play behind them.
100%. I think you sort of mentioned personality and big characters, and it certainly was a team of big characters, full of personality. I think the gaffer added to that all the time, and there was never a vacuum of it. And it could be a difficult place to play. If you weren't playing well, it could be a difficult dressing room to be in. There wasn't any hiding places, but that was just a desire to pull together and do the best that we possibly could as a group.
Mm-hmm. Talk me through this. You're in goals. Scott Patterson's playing sweeper. He's got on the ball. Have you got a clue what he's going to do?
No, I knew he wouldn't give me it back. No, I knew he wouldn't give me it back. And that, if I'm being totally honest, was all I really cared about. Not being the most gifted goalkeeper with the ball at my feet. I was delighted that he would come and take the ball off me. And I was you're a little bit nervous at the start. You're going, I'm going to give you this. You're going to go 10 yards up the park. You're going to have no passes on, and you're going to give me it straight back. And that is not a movie that I want to be in very often. and that just never happened with him. He was so good on the ball. He was also a very good defender, and people sort of forget that because he was so good on the ball. But he was an absolute pleasure to play with, that's for sure.
Yeah. Not bad at left-footed volleys and free kicks against Inverness as well, as we went on that famous Scottish Cup run. How enjoyable was that when we're trying to win a league? But we played.
No, it was mad.
6 games, and obviously culminating in the big semi-final, which went the way the bookies would have thought. But yeah, it was a brilliant occasion for 15,000 Thistle fans almost to be there.
Yeah, I'd agree. The sort of semi-final. So it was against a really good Rangers team. That was our cup final. That was day at Hampden. The place was pretty full. There was a sea of red and yellow behind one of the goals. That was kind of our cup final. The game before that, or the games before that, the 2 Inverness games, they were the really, really nervous ones because they were the really, really big ones because there was something significant at the end of it. And you speak about Scottish goals. My kind of overriding memory was dead early in the first game. It's like a ball into the box, somebody's flicked on a header, it's taken a horrible bounce. I've sort of clawed it out. And the ball's bouncing the 6-yard line, and Archie's been there to smash it away. And it would have looked like a horrible goal to lose if somebody had tapped it in. So yeah, I was very, very glad to see that big left foot smash the ball into the stand. I remember thinking, well, that could have been so different if we go behind there. It was just a really nervous occasion that turned out okay in the end.
Aye, brilliant. So much in that season we could talk about, but winning the title again. And
I think even going back, you go back to that second game, the Inverness away game, and you talk about characters and personality. Like as a team, we were dead on our feet. Inverness away. I remember I had a kind of groiny adductor strain, couldn't kick the ball properly. I remember saying to Stevie Cragen, can you take this by kick with 10 minutes to go? He's like, mate, I'm done in. My ankle's killing me. I'm not doing an extra 30 yards run every time we get a by kick. Just kick the thing. Everybody was on fumes. And you're sort of going,
playing in a swamp as well.
How do we get through this? And then Big Scotty pops up at the end, and the rest, as we know, is history, as they say.
Brilliant. Yes, the St Mirren game, you touched on that a moment ago, but again, that was one of the days that all fans look back to, and huge support that day. But that was the day we clinched it, and that's the day. I don't know what your ambitions were as a young footballer, but you knew you were going to be playing in the top flight the next season, and
I think it shows the volatility of a journey as a football player, and it shows all the mixed emotions that you get. So I never played the St Mirren away game where the team won the league. I didn't play. I was dropped a couple of games earlier. I had a bit of a shocker at Clyde away, if I'm being honest, and then was left out of the team the next couple of weeks. So it stung a bit not to be involved, but at the same time, there's just this outpouring of emotion from what we as a group of players have achieved over a season. So I think it shows that even in those really good times, there's still a bit of adversity that you need to overcome personally and collectively.
How was it then, Premier League football? Obviously one season under Lambie, and then things changed, but a lifelong ambition realised, and chance to play in bigger crowds, better opposition on the telly a lot. Did these kind of things matter?
Looking back, it was a tremendous achievement. I've sort of gone on record loads of times as saying I was not the most gifted goalkeeper or football player by a long stretch. So to play a chunk of games in the Premier League, I think it's kind of obvious to say the first season when we were more competitive and stayed up was better than the second season when we weren't and went down. So that first season, going to bigger stadiums, full stadiums, even seeing teams that you sort of watched on the telly previously coming to Firhill and having a crack at them, seeing our fans and how they enjoyed being back in the big time, if you like. Yeah. It was a really pleasing period. We were punching above our weight, but we did okay. We did well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you were doing so well in your career at that point that international recognition came along. Can you remember the very first time you were informed about that? Who made the call?
I remember a few things about that. I remember just being really pleased to be playing first team football. Was doing all right. Was making saves. We were busy as a defensive unit. The defenders in front of me were doing really well also. I remember the gaffer calling me in his office on a Thursday or a Friday, and I was like, "Oh no, what have I done? I don't think I've done anything, but don't normally get a call in here just for a how you doing? Do you want a cup of tea?" And he's like, "Listen, you've been called up for the squad. It's blah 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 next week. Well done," type of thing. It's like, oh, never saw that coming. That's a bit of a strange one. And then the next memory on that, and it gets even more weird. So the seasons we won the second division, first division, stayed in the Premier League. I was also doing a degree at Glasgow Cali in risk management in the afternoons. So it was Premier League football and loads of lectures. So I remember going out to see the gaffer, told you're called up next week. Had a bit of coursework that had a deadline, so I had to phone a lecturer and say, "Can I get an extension to this?" He went, "Well, what for?" I was like, "Well, I'm called up to the Scotland squad." Didn't believe me. It's like, "Nah, I'm not having that. Come up with a better excuse." I was like, "Genuinely, I promise this is actually the truth." And after
brilliant,
a little bit of begging and persuasion, got an extension, and then kind of went back into football mode. So yeah, it was a funny couple of days, that's for sure.
Yeah. You obviously went away with the main squad. Friendly against Austria, was it? Is that right?
Can't remember. Genuinely can't remember.
But you got your B cap against Northern Ireland B team.
Yeah, it was kind of all merged together. There was the B squad or the future squad, and then there was also some full national team stuff. And it tended to be, I think Rob Douglas at the time had a kind of recurring thigh strain. So I ended up getting on standby list for a few full squads, and then sneaked in kind of last minute if he picked up an injury on a few occasions. So yeah, it kind of all merges in together, but what an experience, and not something that I ever thought I would be part of, even though it was really pleasing to be able to do it.
What was the biggest thing you learned from that kind of exposure to international football?
That I kind of thought, oh, I'm playing in the Premier League, I must be all right, must be not a bad goalkeeper, and then realised that there are so many football players miles better than the level I was at. So it was kind of a reality check, and also a catalyst and a bit more motivation to go, no, there's loads more growth and improvement that can be made.
Yeah.
That was always my makeup though, so I touched on it earlier. Lambie was brilliant at kind of identifying with me. If you told me that I couldn't do something or told me I was bad, I would spend all my time trying to prove you wrong. And I sort of seeked out those type of circumstances. So I would tell myself, all these players are miles better than me. They don't think I should be here, and saw it as a cause to go and prove them wrong.
Mm-hmm. Which you did time and again. Back in Thistle duties, I think I'm just going to pick out one kind of iconic game in the kind of second half of your playing career with Thistle, and that's that Sunday afternoon in Peterhead. obviously a lot happened in the lead up to that. It was a season you could pull out a lot of mini stories about, but a remarkable 120 minutes plus penalty shootout there. That, I guess first thing to talk about is, did you think at half time in the tie, and even when we went a further goal behind, were we out of it? Did you think at any point this isn't going to happen for us? Or
it's really strange. All day, all during the game, even when it wasn't going well, always had that real, underpinning feeling that we would be all right. I can't put my finger on why, and it doesn't happen very often. It didn't happen in many games, and there was no reason kind of on the evidence in front of you that would be the case, but just always thought, this is all right. Even going late, you sort of go, I remember we were 1-0 down in that game. They went clean through, hit the post, and it came back out to no place. And we were kind of on fumes, dead and buried before Billy Gibson hit his free kick that took about 6 deflections on the way through. So you're sort of going, you just always had a feeling we would be all right.
Yeah, I don't feel over the years in the balance of being lucky and unlucky, we've probably just been on the wrong side of that. But that day, with that free kick specifically, we used quite a lot up, and then the penalty record, or another fluke save, but what happened after that on the pitch and in the stands and wearing cowboy hats, and that was a different type of emotion, I guess, that playoff victory.
It was loads of mixed emotions, because in the first game, in the first leg, so I didn't cover myself in glory with one of the goals. To be fair, I thought it was a foul, but that's absolutely irrelevant. Could have done better. So there's sort of that relief that you've got through or contributed to getting through. There's also all the outpouring of emotion on what had been quite a difficult time for the club. I remember all the fans running on the pitch and everything that entails, and then turning around, my mum and dad are standing next to me, and I'm going, why are you here and why are you on the pitch? And they were the same, just dead emotional about it. Quite an interesting bus journey back as well, if I'm being honest. It was another highlight. Yeah.
I guess if mobile phones with all their video capability were about in those days and used as much, you might have seen some interesting things. But
I would like to have kept the receipt. So we stopped at Aberdeen, Tesco or something like that, and I was one of the kind of ones that went in with the kitty, 2 shopping trolleys, pretty much filled to the top with booze, and back on the bus. And I wish I kept the receipt, because that could have been interesting viewing, if I'm being honest. I'll be taken back on.
One Scotch egg or something.
Don't think there was much of that, if I'm being honest. No, I don't think there was much of that.
Brilliant. Your whole career at Thistle, was that long. You got the testimonial, played over 300 games. You obviously we'll talk about the things you did after life at Firhill, but you must look at the whole playing experience, and it's a huge chunk of your life invested in that as a player. And what did you walk away from Firhill with as an abiding memory or sentiment?
Oh, I think I still feel it just now. Dead grateful to have had the opportunity to play 300 odd games for Partick Thistle. If you kind of go, half of them were at Firhill, got to play 150 games in front of the Partick Thistle fans at Firhill. That's boyhood dream stuff. So feel dead humbled and grateful that I was able to do that.
And then we went on a bit of a tour of England.
We did. It was good fun.
I mean, you spent a good spell at Accrington. I think there was financial trouble at clubs was maybe a bit of a recurring theme, that you went round a few clubs. And is it true that you crossed paths with Tom Heaton down at Rochdale?
Yeah.
Was he young? He would have been Manchester United loanee.
He was at Manchester United, yeah. So he came on loan when I got injured, and was so good it wasn't even funny. Really, it was like you're sort of watching something going, even on my best day, I'm no place near your level, like no place close to your level. And you add on top of that, I'm injured just now. I actually need to get my body in a decent nick before I can even try and get to anybody's level. It he was really, really talented. Such a great work ethic, such a great desire to add 1% to his performance by any means possible. And no surprise that he's an established Premier League and international athlete. No surprise at all.
How tight's the goalkeepers union then? Are you still in touch with them at all? Or
yeah, you tend to find most of the goalies union is pretty tight.
Yeah.
Not really Christmas cards at Christmas type of stuff, but it's always somebody that you could pick up the phone to, or vice versa.
Yeah.
And that goes from pretty much anybody that you work with or have worked with. I think that's, people give it a bit of stick, oh, goalies union, you all stick together type of vibe. I think it's just that real empathy that there's only a really thin line between it going really well and going really badly. And we all know that we operate on that tightrope. So we all sort of get it, I suppose is the best way to put it. But no, playing down south was good fun. A bit of serendipity as well. I signed for Aki Stanley only because they came up to Firhill for a pre-season game the year before. I was quite good that day and sort of stuck in the manager's mind. So when I was going looking for opportunities, that's one of the doors I knocked on. Like, I remember you. If they hadn't played that game or I hadn't played that game, there was no chance of that happening.
Feel better for having gone and done something different though in your career rather than the whole time being in Scotland.
It was lovely, honestly. It was great. It was so refreshing in terms of you play at stadiums you've never been at, you play against players you don't know, you play against teams that you don't really know where they are on the map. I remember being 70 minutes into a game at home, not being able to remember if we were playing Mansfield or Macclesfield. And it didn't really matter because it wouldn't have mattered either way to me, type of thing. Going to see different types of clubs, different types of supporters. Played against some really big clubs, like historically big clubs. Your Brentfords, Lutons, were down, Bournemouth as well, were in those type of leagues at that time. So, just a really good experience. My form was decent as well. But yeah, it was refreshing to go and play in a different environment, definitely.
Yeah. Good. You come back up the road, eventually hung up your gloves, but you've clearly not hung up all your gloves because you've
got a few now.
Yeah, you've as well as being a goalkeeping coach, you've built up a good business over the years that's linked back into that goalkeepers union. There's a lot of the top players out there that are wearing your gloves in first team football across the UK now. Yeah,
it kind of started as a sort of semi-serious hobby project when I was just coming to the end of my playing career, and it really stemmed from during a sort of 20-year career. I had loads of innovations in sportswear, loads of changes in football boots, loads of changes in footballs. Gee, they can fly fast now, that's for sure. And didn't really see goalkeeper products change much. Mm-hmm. So again, that was my kind of mission or crusade, if you like, to try and do it, try and improve that. Started it off really small, and we've grown it to a decent sized business with a bit of presence. It's called Calair, shameless plug. That's a logo. Another shameless plug. But no, we've got some decent presence. We've got Alan McGregor wears them at Rangers. Matty Ryan's just signed for Arsenal. We see good growth each year. We've managed to navigate the kind of COVID period relatively well, and I've got some big plans and aspirations going through the next 12 months.
Brilliant, great stuff. Right, second last question. If you could have any goalkeeper in the world, past or present, wear them, who would you?
Gigi Buffon. I don't even need to think about it. Gigi Buffon, absolute hero. What a guy! Yeah. He's played 1,100 games. Do you know that?
I saw that.
1,100 first team games. I remember thinking, I never even got to playing at Annan, saying, one more season, if I play every game, I'll not be far away off 500. And I had nothing left at that point. I was absolutely done, and retired at that time. 1,100 games he's played. It's amazing.
Outstanding. I remember the game in 2007, and Italy beat Scotland, and we were all heartbroken because we weren't getting to the finals, and it was him and Cannavaro were the only two at the end that stayed, and they applauded the Scotland fans. And I thought they was a good abuse, but he got applauded.
You can't abuse Gigi.
Oh, unbelievable!
Can't abuse him.
He's the only guy off the park.
He's the only guy in the world. I remember that game. he played in an international match with a waterproof jersey under his goalkeeper top because it was wet and horrible. And anybody else would be ridiculed for this, apart from Gigi, the hero.
Yeah.
It's funny, it's a link back in. So Thomas Cherney, I'm very close with, one of my good friends.
Yeah.
So we have both got a bottle of Gigi Buffon red wine, and we both saved them for when, after he retires. Now we need to save it for after he retires and you're allowed to meet somebody and bring your own bottle. And I think the two of us will be absolutely devastated if it's rubbish. But yeah, bit of a man crush on Gigi. May have put some Vaseline in my hair during games to try and slick it back. May not have. Can't disclose that information. But no, he's top.
Gigi's hair and Nicky Walker's socks, and we're building up a picture of a
easily influenced here, isn't it? In fact,
absolutely.
Nicky Walker's got a lot to answer for because I went through a blonde stage as well, and I think that was heavily influenced by him, and didn't go well with my big bushy eyebrows. That's for sure.
Quality. Right, let's hear what you have managed to put together as your best Thistle 11 from your long period at the club. This will be a interesting.
So this was here was the criteria. It was players who were at the club at the same time as you. So I'm not playing in it because Nicky Walker's better than me.
The rule is you can't really choose yourself. So that
is that great? Right, fine, brilliant. So Nicky Walker and goals. Nicky Walker. So back three: Stevie Craigan, Scott Patterson, and Archie.
Yep.
I loved playing with James McKinstry and Kenny Milne as my fullbacks. They were up, down, brilliant.
Yeah.
Chick, Danny Lennon, Ian Cameron in the middle.
Wow.
And Scott McLean and Jerry Britton up front. And that was a tough one because Peter Lindu scored about a gazillion goals when we won the second division. But I think Jerry scored so many important ones. I remember a volley Dundee away in the cup run.
Yeah.
I remember him always showing, like as a goalkeeper getting the ball, he always offered something for me as a goalkeeper to try and link the play a little bit. He was brilliant to play with as well.
I'm not sure we've heard a better team than that. I've got to be honest. I'll need to check them all back, but that is a hell of an 11. Chick Charnley. Last word at your testimonial, was that right?
Chick has the last word most places he goes, if I'm being honest. Just unbelievable ability. I remember we spoke at the start. I used to watch Aki's games. He played for Aki's. He went to Thistle. They were in the same league, so I saw him loads there. Got the opportunity to play with him when he came back to the club under John McVeigh. Just more ability in his little finger than the majority of the planet has in their whole body, and a thoroughly decent fella to boot as well. Testimonial. I think it was Scott Fox in goals as well. He beat Scott Fox from about 100 yards. So there's loads of little crossovers here, isn't there?
And finally, I'll talk about Danny Lennon, who obviously led the team for so long. He must have just brought a lot to not just the midfield, but team spirit, leadership. You tell me you played with him.
Obviously a really good player, a driving force in midfield. Great quality on the ball, chipped in with goals every now and again. I didn't realise at the time, maybe I wasn't looking for it, the kind of leadership qualities that he brought in, like a dressing room with lots of big personalities. But a really good human as well. I remember one day at training, we were training before the stand was built behind the goal, and we were doing some shooting there. It'd been a bit of a jovial session, and I wasn't a big fan of that. I was quite serious about my training and all that type of stuff. So he's tried to chip me when we're doing shooting, and I've sort of lost the plot a little bit and had a big tantrum about people messing about. And then I kind of thought, maybe I shouldn't have said that. That's the captain. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're in the dressing room, he sort of came past me, and I'm going, oh no, he's going to give me a bit of stick there. He just gave me a pat on the head. He's like, see you tomorrow, love that. And walked out the door, and I was like, got a lot of time for you, actually. Yeah,
brilliant.
Really
that's
decent
excellent.
Human and a proper winner.
Absolutely. Magic, taking us back there on a great journey to some of the best memories of the past 4 decades. Sorry for mentioning that again.
I just need to make sure that nobody's drank my bottle of Buffon wine, otherwise Thomas Tierney might not speak to me ever again.
Well, I spoke to Thomas last week, spoke to you this week. It's been an absolute pleasure to go back through the years with you, Kenny, and clearly we all hope we'll be seeing you warming up the keepers at Firhill again soon when football hopefully returns.
See, I'm on a diet. I was hoping I'd get a squad number maybe, but I said that to the gaffer now, kind of a joke, and thought he would find it funny. He was just looking, going, no chance.
Time and a place. Brilliant. Right, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Catch you later.